everyone. Welcome back to Brewbound's continuing coverage of how the beer industry is adjusting to the impact of the novel coronavirus disease, COVID-19. My name is Justin Kendall, and I am the editor of Brewbound, and I am still in my 455 square foot studio apartment in Massachusetts. It's Casual Friday, as you can see from my Macho Man Randy Savage t-shirt here in the Brewbound studio apartment. And I'm joined by Google Hangout by Jeff Heck. He is one of the co-founders of Atlanta's Night Brewing Company. Jeff, how are you hanging in there?
We're hanging in there. It's been a really rough couple of weeks, but we have moved, I think, really quickly to try and do our best to adapt to this really uncertain time. So lots of hard decisions, but in some ways, there's a way in which this is a reminder of how important it is to be on top of your business and take care of people along the way, while also making the right decisions for the business. So, it's with the world changing every day. There's a different challenge and a different problem to solve every day. So at least I'm staying busy.
Yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to jump in with you, because I know you guys have had to make some hard decisions. Everyone's had to make some hard decisions over the last couple of weeks, at least. And I want you to walk us through some of those tough decisions that you've had to make.
Sure. Well, I'll start with just kind of the overview of what's happened to our business, because I think our decisions have been in response to that. So early last week, we closed our tap rooms right before the there was a citywide in Atlanta mandate to do so. And so our bars and restaurants are closed in Georgia, which is our largest market. And then our tap rooms are closed. We have 2 tap rooms in the city of Atlanta. We're fortunate. We did last year about a little over 20,000 barrels of production. So we have a nice large wholesale business in Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee. And fortunately, we're able to continue manufacturing, though with a lot stricter safety protocols and a slimmed down crew. So when we closed our tap rooms, we had to furlough all of our taproom employees, because the tap rooms are really a great source of income for us to fund other parts of the business. We also had to furlough some folks on our sales and marketing teams, and let a couple people go. So it's been a hard week. We've lost about probably around 55% of our revenue was really gone overnight, from between our tap rooms and our on-premise business. The interesting thing has been we have been able to launch a to-go program here at the brewery. So it's drive-through only with a lot of really significant safety protocols. And we've just seen a really great outpouring of folks coming out and trying to support their local breweries. And then we've also completely shifted our packaging mix over to cans, because we are seeing a nice surge in grocery business, and we're fortunate to have a strong presence in grocery.
How difficult is it to sort of maintain supply at this time?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we haven't personally been impacted by much, but the reality is it only takes one thing to really inhibit your ability to put together a finished product. So if you have everything but can lids, then you're not canning any beer. If you have everything except for boxes, you're not sending out sampler packs. So fortunately, so far we've been able to have be in a good position there. I do worry. I think this is going to be really hard, because the longer this drags out, and the more a supply shifts in something like cans over in the economy in general, the harder it's going to be to secure those that inventory. And also, this is happening at a time when a lot of suppliers are really short on cash. So there's a real tension between wanting to sort of stock up on materials, but also recognizing you have to be incredibly conservative with your cash right now.
So you've had to make a lot of adjustments. Those moves, I guess, how long? It's not an easy question, but how long are you able to sort of operate under the current circumstances?
Yeah, it's just so hard to say. I think because we took so many steps so quickly, and we're fortunate to have a strong off-premise business. I think if we continue to see the kinds of things, there are things we can do to continue to weather this, and that's our goal right now. And I think that should be every brewery's goal right now, is to survive. And if you're not already in survival mode, you're weeks behind. I would personally, I've been surprised at how little I've heard from other breweries talking publicly about how challenging this is and how destructive it's going to be for the industry. I wish that more people were talking about it. Maybe we're overreacting, but I just have a really hard time believing that's the case. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but if I had to put like an over under on how many breweries in the of our 8,000 are left in 12 months, I mean, I would be surprised if it's more than 5,000 that are still remaining. So I think we all as an industry have to take this really seriously, look for ways to help each other out.
3,000 breweries, that's a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it. How many breweries right now of those 8,000 rely exclusively on on-premise sales, or almost exclusively? I mean, the restaurant landscape is going to be completely different. The bar landscape is going to be completely different. And so, I think anyone who knows, who has a crystal ball to sort of say what they think the world looks like on the other time is probably a little crazy. But I'm kind of doing it anyway, just to sort of make a point, which is that I think that this is going to be, really just really completely change the landscape of really the hospitality business.
Why do you think there was such a lack of preparedness for an event like this?
Well, I think it's a couple things. I mean, one is, small business owners generally are scrappy, and they're really willing to take risks, right? So, I mean, that's one of the things you absolutely have to do if you want to start a business, is you've got to be willing to take some crazy risks. And it's certainly one of the risks you think about is not, well, what if the state shuts down all bars and restaurants indefinitely? Like, you just can't ever, I don't think you can solve for that. But I do think the ones that will be able to come out are the ones that have a combination of kind of being in the right place at the right time, like having a good mix of business that allows them to stay in business, and the ones who are just super scrappy and survive smart, which is kind of how do you find the cash that you need as soon as possible, but also and cut costs immediately, but find ways to keep great people in the right roles, communicate with your wholesalers, your retailers, your customers, and get creative with revenue. So I think entrepreneurs are scrappy, and so this is kind of a time to put back on, if you've gotten a little bit larger like we have. Let's roll up our sleeves and get our entrepreneur hats on again, and go figure out how to make it through this.
For lack of a better term, when was the oh shit moment for you, when you really realized that this was a serious moment?
For us, it was probably about 2 weeks ago. Once we saw things getting worse in New York, and had started climbing over about 100 cases or so in Georgia, and started hearing confirmation of there was a death in Atlanta. And at that point, I've been reading enough about the virus and how quickly it's sort of, once you have community spread, how quickly that happens, that we started getting really nervous. So it was the following Monday evening we made the decision to close our tap rooms. And then Tuesday that went into effect, and we had to furlough folks. So I guess, what have you been hearing from retailers? Yeah, it's a really mixed bag. There are, their bars and restaurants are in really tough spot. Their businesses are in our community, and for most of the territories where we distribute, are in really rough shape. So there's nothing going on there. And then on the off-premise side, liquor stores and convenience stores and grocery, for the most part, have been beneficiaries of this, interestingly. So I think the real question is where that settles out. I think it's too early to really tell, because there's this sort of initial surge of people kind of either wanting to stock up, or they haven't realized that they're going to get laid off yet. I mean, the other thing that I think will impact it long term is the economic fallout. And if we go into a recession, that's going to change consumer purchasing habits over time as well. Well, and I wonder what that does, obviously, to premium and craft products, because those go at higher margins, higher price points, and so does this lead to a regression to
economy style brands or just even cheaper brands or even tried and true brands where there's not going to be this willingness among a consumer or among the consumers to try new.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the landscape looks different and there are fewer brands out there, there probably is some opportunity for brands that are still around. I think quality is always a component of value. It's price, but it's also value. And so the good news for beer is we're not a $75 bottle of wine, right? We're even at a $16 4-pack, it's still a really good. It's really still not a huge surge, but I do think there's absolutely risk to that. I think the other benefit is for breweries that do have own premise sales, like us. I think there's going to be a big opportunity coming out of this too. There's going to be a deep desire for people to reconnect with folks, and have an experience that's still, I can rock in and out for $12, not much more than I pay for going to Wendy's.
Well, and there's another piece to this that I think we're all wondering about is what's normal look like when we get on the other side of this. Are people going to be willing to go back to tap rooms, or how many of the people will be willing to go back to tap rooms or restaurants or bars? Is it going to be a slow integration, before we're all comfortable again? Or is it going to be something like, like we just, spring hits and people, or summer, whoever knows when this ends, or fall.
Yeah.
And, we're all sick of being, hermits and we go back out.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, I think that's part of the challenge in terms of figuring out, how would we staff back up if and when our tap rooms reopen, which I fully expect will happen at some point. But do you plan on 50% less revenue, or do you plan on 50% more revenue because everybody's been cooped up? I think regardless, we have an obligation as providing space to people and members of our community to do a few things. One is to create jobs as soon as we can and bring our people back to work when we can. But two is to make it a safe place for our guests and for our employees, first and foremost for our team, and then for our guests. And so I think we've got to. I think that one expectation I have is that the safety expectations, cleanliness expectations, both for employees and guests, is going to change. I think there's going to be a cohort of people that are going to be like, "Thank God we're done with this. Let's get out of the house and roar back." And I think initially we'll probably see a small group of people like that, and then we've got to be careful for them. We're probably going to be the ones having to police that a little bit. And then over time, I think we probably will get back to an environment where, people just, they want to make sure the tables are spaced out far enough apart. The table gets wiped down between service. That the bartender's wearing gloves. But we don't know. We just have to be prepared for a number of different possible outcomes at the end of this.
Yeah. Well, and I know that you've meticulously planned Monday night's future, and I just got to ask, how have the last 2 weeks changed that? I mean, you've probably got 3, 5, 10-year plans. Like, how have those been altered?
Yeah, I mean, I think in some ways, when you hit a moment like this, you basically put everything on the shelf except for what's right in front of you. And I think we've acknowledged the world's going to look different in 6 months at the end of or whenever the real end of this is. And our job is to be to survive on the other side, and to be well positioned, to be one of those breweries that remains open, and then to be in a position where we've got good people in the right roles, where we've built solid relationships with our wholesalers and retailers and customers, where we've been creative with how to grow revenue, and hopefully try to have as much financial reserve left over to be able to take advantage of opportunities on the other side. So I think we're going to have some significant new strategic planning sessions that will happen at Monday night over the next few months. But right now, it's just, I think everybody should be in survival mode.
Yeah. Well, and one of those plans was to open a tap room in Alabama. How has that affected those plans?
Yeah, so we're still moving forward. Our landlord's still working on construction there until Birmingham was shut down under the shelter in place this week. So we still. I think the real question there is when that comes back, when that actually would open. So fortunately, we haven't done a big hiring. We haven't done any real hiring there yet, and so we have invested some money, but not to the point where we're overly concerned about getting that across the finish line, and we're working closely with our landlord to figure out what the right thing to do is there.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap this up, I know you're taking this super seriously, and I know that, and I share a lot of the same concerns that you do about the way people are addressing this, or at least approaching this event. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. It's a crisis. It's affecting everyone, whether they are willing to admit it or not. So I guess, what piece of advice would you give people who are obviously in the same position as you right now?
I think two big things. I mean, one is take this seriously because of the health and safety of your people and your community. And I think we have a really a strong role to play in our communities as businesses that care about people. People care about a lot about us, and we need to do the same. So even if we closed our tap rooms before we were really required to do so, and I think everybody needs to take seriously the obligation we have to care for our communities and our people. And then the second thing I would do is just get in front of your bank, get in front of your wholesaler, get in front of your customers, and then get in a spreadsheet and figure out what your cash situation looks like. Ask for help where you need it. Talk to your accountant. Whatever, there are resources out there to help do that. But I mean, every single person in this industry right now should be figuring out where they stand from a cash flow perspective, and do everything they can to get through, I think, weeks, not months, not weeks.
I think that's great advice. Thanks, Jeff.